Hello, and a warm welcome to our Irish Angle podcast in association with William Hill. I hope everyone watching has had a very nice Christmas and have enjoyed the racing. We're going to go through it now in a few minutes, but the first thing I just wanted to mention regarding William Hill is if you're looking at having any anti-post bets for Cheltenham, you should check out their website and their app. They've got a very interesting thing here called Road to Cheltenham, where they're boosting prices on lots of horses, all the main horses really, for all the Cheltenham races. So you can find it under their horse racing and specials. A few ones I saw this morning, just Sir Gino, 2-1 to win the champion hurdle. I think he's 6-4, best price everywhere else. And then other horses like Tihupu, Marine Nationale, El Queiroz, Narciso Has, and lots more, all boosted prices. So well worth checking out. Anyway, getting stuck into today's show. We've no Johnny Ward. He's after getting engaged, so he's not with us today. But I've got Emma Nagle and Paddy Flood, and the three of us are going to go through all the Christmas action. Welcome, guys.
Perfect.
Now, we get stuck in. First biggest thing was the King George. What a spectacle that was. What a finish. Never seen nothing like it. 4 jumping the last in unison. And a nose between 3 of them at the line, and it all goes in Harry Redknapp's favour in the end. Paddy, what did you make of that race?
Visually, wasn't it brilliant, Vin? A great seller for Kempton and for everyone fighting to keep the racecourse alive. I can't remember recent times. Like, it goes back to nearly the Cato Star, best mate, long run sort of finishes, superstars all upsides, jockeys giving everything, horses giving everything. And, I was delighted for Harry Redknapp. He's invested in this game, he's plenty of money, I suppose, down through the years, but these horses aren't cheap and training horses aren't cheap, and he seems to absolutely love his ownership. He really thrives on it. But I thought Gaelic Warrior was going to win it, to be honest. Turning in, he off a slow pace. I was actually surprised how slow they went with the Ile France up top. They went very sedate and just they quickened well. Factophile, never a factor. From a mile out, you could tell he was beaten. I think Gaelic Warrior is still better than this, and I was saying it on the last show. Willie's horses are not right. I'm telling you, because if Willie Mullins is back through the years, think about it all the way through the years, was even if the horses weren't good enough, you had to battle to get by. They know how to fight. They love a fight. They're trained hard in a deep gallop. But most of the horses that are running well and winning are probably very above average horses that, are not coming under that much pressure. But any of the horses there, all Christmas, they're getting to the second last hard on the bridle and they're walking home. Like, it's not for me, it's not a need of a run. That they're crumbling under pressure, and Willie's horse don't do that, even if they need a run. I mean, the French horse in the future novice hurdle, I can't remember what day it was, but like, he jogged around and he winged hurdles, and Paul Townend gave him a shake, and he walked from the second last home. And yeah, to me, look, it's more than horses needing runs. I think there's a lot more going on, and with that, I'd give a lot of them another chance, to be honest. I'd give till the DRF before I make any decision to back Willies in Cheltenham.
Yeah, I'd agree. They're definitely under a bit of a cloud at the minute. But having said that, so switching back to that race again, the King George, Emma, it was a cracking finish, but you have to query the form a little bit, do you?
I'm not sure, Vincent. Like Paddy said, I'd say a lot of the jockeys in behind probably expected LA Francais to go out and blaze a real trail, but he went quite steady in front, which I'd say didn't particularly suit Gaelic Warrior. It kind of turned into a bit of a sprint finish, but I think you have to give all credit to the winner as well. In fairness, the jukebox man, he was impressive running in Haydock the time before. He's kind of an up and coming horse, I suppose, in the division. Whether or not now he's a proper Gold Cup horse or not, I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't mind seeing him go to Ryanair, because he showed a good turn of foot there turning in, and I just loved the way when he was headed by Banbridge and Gaelic Warrior, but he put his head down, he battled all the way to the line. It was brilliant to see it for Ben Jones. You could see how much it meant to him, and like Paddy said, Harry Redknapp and Ben Pauling, like, it was a huge success for them. And Banbridge again ran his brilliant race second in the King George. I don't know, I'm not sure if you can query the form, to be honest. I think Gaelic Warrior, the way the race was run probably didn't particularly suit him. He kind of had a chance. He got up the inner there. I'm not sure. Did Paul's little mishap with the stick in the closing, like in the closing yards, help him too much? I don't think he lost the whole point of momentum, so it might be a bit harsh to say that. But just when the margin of defeat is so small, something like that maybe would stick in the back of your mind. But I take a lot of positives from the race for Gaelic Warrior. He was kind of a fancy for the Gold Cup for me long term, and like I think it was a good performance, but I think he could probably do better as well in a race that's kind of more one to suit him. Like, you can see why they dropped him in, after running away basically in the John Durkin. They got him to settle, and Paul put him to sleep there down the inner, even off a slow pace. So I thought it was a cracking race. Fact of final was the obvious big disappointment there. Like, you'd have to just say he was flat after the John Durkin. Like, it's hard to really, like, he was never really going. He was never jumping with massive fluency. Yeah, I just have to put a line through that for him, I suppose. I'm not sure where they'll go from here. And Django Bay, I think the first four home all ran with massive credit. I think Django Bay is a horse you can take going forward to the Gold Cup as well. I'd say he's probably one who would have liked a faster pace as well. He looks like a proper stayer for me. So I thought it was a cracker, and I'd say the first four home, like they put in good performances, and I was I don't I'm not I wouldn't query the form anyway personally myself.
Yeah, just thought fact to file. Like if you go back to the Ryanair last year, he looked like a superstar. It's just that he's nowhere near that run, is he? He's not even near where he did in the John Durkin either with that. So I don't know. I think if he comes back to his best, I think he finishes ahead of them. That's my opinion on it. So I'm not quite sure where the form is. But like we tie it in with the Savills Chase, which we saw yesterday. You were there, Emma. Cracking day in Leopardstown, obviously. And what did you make of that race?
Yeah, Savills was a cracker. I'm a massive Gallopin Deschamps fan. It's probably said it plenty of times. And I suppose to start off, it was a brilliant day in Leopardstown yesterday. I've been to the Savills Chase the last couple of years now. And it's probably the biggest crowd. It felt like the biggest crowd to me anyway that it's been in a good few years. The place was absolutely buzzing. People just properly enjoying the racing. There was crowds deep at the parade ring for nearly every race. In fairness, for the winners coming back in, massive awards for all the winners coming back. It was brilliant atmosphere in Leopardstown, and I suppose the Savills, it was a bit of a shock winner after Dale Fury. He's a massive step up in form for him. He'd been ours. I suppose we've been maybe a little bit unlucky for Noel Meade. He was second in that with Bartlett a few years ago, and things probably just didn't really go right for him. And he missed periods of time, and he missed a few intended targets. But he's a horse who put it together on the day, and you have to give him all the credit for Sam Ewing, the man who's on fire at the moment. But Gallopin Deschamps, I suppose, is the big talking point. I thought he had a very good race, to be honest, and I was surprised to see him go to 7-1 for the Gold Cup after it. After jumping the crowd kind of got behind him. It looked like he was going to power up clear, like we've seen him do so many times in Leopardstown. But just the lack of a run, and maybe factoring in the horses, in the fact that these horses aren't flying at the moment. I thought it was a brilliant one, to be honest. Probably just blew up coming up the home straight in Leopardstown, and I take massive positives from it, to be honest. After missing his John Durkin one, I thought he was pretty good there. Though I'd fancy him to kick on again, going to Dublin Racing Festival and on to Cheltenham. I know the way you're thinking. It was a bizarre one for me. I can't really understand it. We were previewing the race this time last week with Paddy and Johnny, and I think we were all kind of scratching our heads to see how he was. I was his 9-4 favourite at the time. This time last week, and drifted out to 13-2 before the off. Never went to yard. Look, it's probably no secret that he's always been campaigned for one race, but it's massively disappointing to see a Gold Cup winner running like that. In pretty much every race outside of the festival. I'm just not a big fan of the horse myself, and yeah, it was a bizarre one.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite lose faith with him yet, I have to say. I see he's 6-1 for the Gold Cup. You've Gallop and Deschamps at 7. I wouldn't mind backing the two of them couples because I'd say they're both going to turn up on the day. And I thought Gallop and Deschamps, I thought it was a cracking run from him too, considering he most likely blew up from the last home. What did you make of it, Paddy?
Again, wasn't it a great race? I was just saying at home here, racing is a great sport. When it gets predictable, it gets a bit, it's the same every day of the week. But for Noel Meade to come back, I think Noel's probably won 4 or 5 saddles now. And people forget how good of a trainer Noel Meade was. Like when I was tipping away around, Noel was the boss, and Paul Carberry was the man, and they were winning everything. So it was great to see them and the owners there to win that. I think you're thinking, I think it was a joke of a run, to be honest. I think his first 2 runs are jokes of runs. I mean, do you pull in the stewards at this stage and say, listen, what are we doing with this horse? It's a Gold Cup winner. He's always going to attract support because he's a Gold Cup winner. So people are backing this horse on his name and that he won a Gold Cup, but you're just basically throwing money over the rail onto the track. It's not worth it. Where's the time? So look, you can say you're only training for one race, but does that mean you just don't have the horse fit and don't try till that race? But that's not racing. That's not the rules. Every horse should be there on the merit. But aside from that, I was delighted with Gallop in the Champ. I thought, like the whole crowd in Leopardstown, turning in, I thought, here we go. He'll power away now like he does. But yeah, a lack of a run. It's a long, long way up that straight, over 3 miles in Leopardstown, and I thought he jumped well. I thought he done everything right, bar finished strong. And again, the way Willie's horses are under that bit of a cloud, you could probably upgrade the run again. But the second horse I thought ran some race, I Am Maximus. That was a real eye catcher for the national. But yeah, it was a brilliant race to watch, and I was watching it at home. I wasn't at the races, but you could feel the crowd and you could hear the crowd, and Jerry Han was getting lively as well. But no, great race and a really nice result.
Yeah, I'd agree. Just looking at that, just the bigger pictures, I suppose, with the championship, jockey wise, obviously Gordon Elliott's had an unbelievable few days, and so have all of his jockeys, including the Sam Ewing Emma mentioned earlier. But Jack Kennedy, he's now level in the Jockeys Championship with Darragh O'Keefe. He was 30 odd winners behind, and he's closed the gap. They're both on 70 starting today, and Paul Townend is 28 behind them on 42 winners. It's hard to see if Jack Kennedy stays fit and well to the end of the season. It's hard to see him get caught by either. Well, he'd surely pass Darragh O'Keefe the way that's gone, and it's very hard to see Paul Townend catch that gap, is it? What would you make of that, Emma?
Yeah, we were speaking about it, I think, back at when the Down Royal Festival was on at the start of the year. I think you put in a message into the group chat saying Jack Kennedy was 20-1 for the Jockeys Championship, and I'm kind of regretting not backing it now. Yeah, it looks like, look, as you said, it kind of, if he stays fit and well, and fingers crossed, he does, because Gordon's horses couldn't be going any better. Darragh O'Keefe, yeah, like he had a blazing start of the year. He gets an awful lot of outside rides, but like when you're going for the Jockeys Championship in Ireland, I suppose you're kind of relying on that own big stable to prepare you. And Henry's horses just hadn't been, I suppose, he's always had that little bit of a lull in form this time of year. So I'd say, like, if Jack can keep himself sound, it's going to be very hard to to hold him off now at this stage when he's drawn level already. And Paul's a good bit behind, I think, on 42 winners, but look, you never really rule him out either, like, would you? But I think Gordon for the Trainers' Championship is an interesting discussion, definitely. Like, he's 700,000 in front of Willie at the moment. Willie's horses will get going. Like, I know we're saying now they're not running well, but like, he'd have them right probably by the Dublin Racing Festival, if not before then. So Gordon probably needs to have the lead he has. But just interesting comments from Gordon. Like, it was a change of tact, I suppose, with Tiupu in particular, running him at Christmas. And he was interviewed after one of his winners at the weekend, and he was saying, like, he'd probably have a bigger team for the Dublin Racing Festival this year. He might send the likes of a Tiupu and a few others. Like, it's normally kind of something, not that he bypasses, but he doesn't really aim his big horses at it. He kind of saves them for Cheltenham more so. But he seems to be really gunning for the Trainers' Championship this year. And like, if he can keep the horses in their form they're in, like, they're after, I think he said 15 or 16 winners over the Christmas period already. Like, if he can keep up this momentum for even a few more weeks, like, Willie could have a job trying to peg him back. He's got some really nice young horses coming up and up through as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I suppose when we're talking after Dublin Racing Festival, if it's still looking the same way, I'd imagine Gordon could be really licking his lips at the toss of the Trainers' Championship.
Yeah, I think that Trainers' Championship is his number one target, has been for years, and he would adore to win it. So I think he'll throw everything at it if he thinks he's got a chance. I could even see him bypass Cheltenham at 1 or 2 if he thought he had a chance of winning that Trainers' Championship. What would you make of it, Paddy? He's definitely got a real squeak this year, hasn't he? 700,000 ahead coming to the end of the year.
Oh, he definitely has. He's a chance. That's the way I'll put it. So I would never ever say Willie Mullins will be bet in a Trainers' Championship, because last year he went for the English one, and if he's getting close in the Irish one, he'll keep that ammo at home for to make sure I'm in the Irish one. Listen, Gordon's having a great year, and fair play to him, because he's had it hard, you know, down through the years, he went through a change of horses, change of ownerships, but he's just hit that real nice vein of horses now, from novices to established horses. And you know, whereas years gone by, them kind of staying chases and stuff like that, you might have one or two runners in it. You'd see him more with tote plates, horses and stuff like that. But he has the real grade one chasers now as well. And it's going to be a really interesting one. And just with the jockeys thing, I think Dara will struggle. You know, I don't think he has the firepower from here on out. But he's having such a great season. So listen, I don't think he'd be too disappointed that he's not a champion jockey. But I wouldn't write off Townland either. Same with William Owens' horses, because if they start firing, Willie can bag 5 or 6 winners, 7 winners a week if he wanted, you know, if they are really firing. But it'll be a great show both ways. I think trainer and jockeys will go down to the wire.
Yeah, it should be good fun for the rest of the season. And look, we'll look back at some of the other Christmas stuff that we haven't talked about. Maybe starting off with St. Stephen's Day. There was lots of things to talk about there with the Christmas hurdle in Kempton with Sir Gino. As low as 6-4 to win the champion hurdle. Now I say 6-length victory over the champion hurdle winner, Golden Ace. Then we also had El Keros. That was a bizarre one at Leopardstown. I don't really know what happened there. Maybe one of you can enlighten me. We'd Narciso Has, the juvenile of Willie's, is very impressive. Romeo Coolio beaten Irish Panther, half a length. That doesn't look like the form I thought we were going to see from Romeo Coolio, but now they're talking about going up and trip. What do you make of all that, Emma?
Yeah, I suppose Romeo Coolio, first off, he's probably just doesn't look like a two-miler, does he? Like, we were kind of speaking about him before the race, and like his jumping had been a massive plus in all these chase starts so far, but he just never really looked to be overly comfortable at the pace for me. You know, he wasn't jumping poorly in particular, but you know, he just wasn't winging fences like we know he can, and it's going to be a tricky decision now for connections about where they'll go next. You know, do you stick at the 2 mile trip? Gordon says that's pretty unlikely at the moment unless the ground comes up very soft in Cheltenham. Or do you step up to 3 miles and, you know, take on a final demand? Stepping up to 3 miles at this stage of his career, I'm not sure. Maybe that mightn't be the answer for Romeo Cooley either. So, look, it's probably mad. Like, Gordon doesn't seem to bypass Cheltenham with any horse. And I actually saw the owners tweeting over the weekend as well. Has any novice ever won the Ryanair? So maybe that's in their considerations as well, stepping him straight into open company. But look, he's a very good horse. I'd say 2 miles just isn't his trip. But like, I was sickened for the Hearties. I thought like Irish Panther. I say he hasn't been probably the easiest horse to train. He was with Edward O'Grady kind of early on in his career when he was running in the Mulrine Silks, and he was a pretty good bumper horse. He was beaten by Fact of Oil and Ballyburn, I think, in his first 2 starts for Edward. And you know, he ran a few good races, but probably just had been a little bit tricky. He changed over to the Hearties then, and again showed plenty of promise over hurdles. I actually backed him for the county hurdle last year, and travelled well, but just kind of disappointed in the end. But like, since switching to fences, he's been a fair revelation for them. And I was shaken to see him get caught out of the line, because it would have been brilliant to see kind of a smaller stable. I suppose nowadays, like a Heady Hearty wouldn't be a small stable. A few years ago, but like, you know, to see a bit of variety in the grade ones is always good. But a huge performance and a huge training performance for them to get him right. And look, he looks like a horse with loads of potential over fences. He's improving rapidly. Sergino, in Kempton, it was a good performance for me. I don't think he jumps like a champion hurdler at all, but just the engine is so big that, you know, he could do absolutely anything. I was maybe a bit surprised that they dropped him back over hurdles when it was kind of announced earlier or a few weeks ago that he was going to go that route, because I thought he was just such a brilliant chaser in the chase start we saw him in last year. But look, he's got the engine to beat the likes of a Golden Ace, when maybe not doing everything totally right in Kempton. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on him, but like, if he's got the engine to do that, like, Golden Ace is absolutely no slouch. Like, champion hurdle winner, backed up the form again in Newcastle a few weeks ago. Look, he's going to be. We'll probably know more in a couple hours' time now when we see Lassie Mount and Boiler Days ahead clash off in Leopardstown and Lansdowne. But he's a horse with a huge engine, and he could be a horse who could go on and win a champion hurdle and then go on and win a champion chase next year. He's a serious animal.
Yeah. And what about the other one, El Keros? Paddy, what do you make of that? I didn't know what happened there. Particularly the fact that jumped the hurdle fine, just maybe put a foot in the hole or something, was it?
No, I wouldn't think it was a whole Vin. It's called speed and gravity, and when they come together and one is off kilter, that's what happens. You know, He went down. If you watch it back, he gave the hurl a little clip, jumped it perfectly fine, but gave it a little clip, which kind of just, I would say, in midair took him off balance a little bit. But when you're going that speed, it's so exaggerated. And my opinion was, like, any other horse, if they were tired, it would have just laid down. But for him to stick a leg right, a leg left, and a leg right before he went down, he'd still plenty left in the tank. Like, it happens. You see it there with Talk to Talk. Same thing. Novice jumped too big, kind of after getting a brilliant ride, smuggled, and the last hurdle was probably the only hurdle he's had seen properly, and gravity again and speed. Do you know, you'll rarely see it when ground is heavy, but on that better ground in better races, it can happen. You know, it's happened to me in Cheltenham over fences a couple of times where you've jumped it really well, but just momentum, and if you get it slightly wrong in the air and you throw them off kilter a bit. But listen, it's a freak thing that happens once, very, very so often. But geez, he looks a good horse. He looks a proper animal. I can't wait to see him again, and I'd love to see him, like, up against Willies when they are firing. But the two I mentioned there, actually, Talk to Talk and him, the two fallers, were probably my two eye catchers from the whole week.
Yeah, I'd agree, certainly from Leopard's down. Anyway, just looking forward to Saturday then, which was Sam Ewing Day, or it would have definitely been if Talk to Talk had stayed up. We'd Carghazy winning, we'd Solness and Marine Nationale and Nagborough, of course. And then we'd Sam Ewing winning on a 66-1 chance. Favori de Chandos in the Paddy Power Chase. And then down in Limerick, we'd the big Westerner beating Jade de Grugy. What about Saturday? Emma, what was your highlight there?
I suppose the champion chase, the Paddy Awards Club chase was a cracker. You probably have to feel a bit sorry for JG. He got a crash and fall in the race beforehand on St James's Gate, so he missed the ride on Solness, who he rode brilliantly to win it the year before. But it was exciting. Marine Nationale made that mistake down the back straight. I'm not actually sure what he did. Maybe Paddy might have a bit more insight into that, but he just nearly overjumped it and unbalanced Sean a small bit possibly. But like it was some performance by him to come back from that error. Like, you know, he was nearly brought to not really a standstill, but he kind of ran all over the track. Like it was a fairly bad mistake, and to come back in a 2 mile chase after something like that, like, just kind of shows the rate of form the horse was in. First one of the year, it was probably an improvement on his run in the same race last year. So you'd imagine he'll be gunning for the DRF and on to Cheltenham now as well. It was a big performance for him. You have to give credit to the winner though. Solness obviously loves it around Leopardstown. He was primed by Joseph as well for the race, and he was just so tough. He wasn't going to leave anyone get past him on the day, and it was a brilliant ride by Sam as well from the front. He's a real hardy old horse. Masborough again, look, he obviously jumped an awful lot better than he jumped in Cork, but I don't know. For me, he's just not a 2 miler. People maybe were saying he was a bit unlucky in the home straight with the gap cut off, but I think he had loads of time to go through the gap, but he just didn't have the pace to go through it. If you look at them after jumping the last, he was in front of Marine Nationale, and he just couldn't accelerate past, and maybe it looked a bit unfortunate on the replay, but I think if he was good enough, he would have gone through there. I wouldn't mind seeing him step up and trip now at this stage, to be honest, because I just wouldn't. I couldn't see him winning a champion chase now. After those few performances.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What about Marine Nationale, Paddy? Horse that they've tended to have only 3/4 fit on the first couple of runs of the season. We would presume it was probably something similar. So it was a very big performance after what happened early on as well.
Yeah, it was a smashing performance. Ben, he's a horse we probably overlook a lot, and he's just a solid old horse, isn't he? And every year he keeps turning up. Just that fence where he made a mistake. It's a tricky fence that you're going quick down to it. You're actually running downhill, and sometimes when you get past the stands, horses kind of light up with the shouting and the roaring, and it's kind of you hit a downhill as the crowd is shouting at you. So a lot of horses tend to just grab the bit down there. I think he kind of went to go tight, Emma, and it's hard to see because the camera angle, he was kind of masked by the horse in front of him, but I think he got tight and his body looked like he was going to go one way, and Sean's body was sent the other way. Now, I'd say if you could see a close-up clip of that, I'd say he was a millimeter from coming off. It was a great bit of jockeyship to get back on him, because when he threw himself back into the saddle, he nearly fell out the other side. So we're talking gravity again. all this doing 30 miles an hour, which was fantastic. But for a horse to do that, rarely do you see a horse make that mistake and a jockey nearly coming off and finish anywhere. You tend to jump 3 or 4 more fences and pull up. But yeah, fair play to him, to overcome that first run of the year. And yeah, for all his followers, he's definitely on track. But Ashborough, again, I don't know. I'd say we could be looking at a horse that'll have to go back hurdling or something, because he's not a chaser. He's just not good enough at it, and he doesn't shorten well enough. He's perfectly good when he's right, but if you're going to work in the morning, you're going to meet traffic lights, and you're not going to meet all of them green. You're going to have to meet some red and adjust for it at some stage. Never in a horse race does everything, come at you perfectly, especially them good 2-milers. You need to be nimble, you need to be quick, and you need to be good at it. I don't know. I could say in a champion chase, it'd be a horrible ride, and I'd say you'd be worrying on him going out in a champion chase, because the fact he can't shorten, and he's that ignorant that he'd rather hit it with his head than slow himself down. I don't know what to do with him, to be honest. Like, what can you do? Stepping up, Emma, he's probably too keen to step up. Like, in Leopardstown there, Mark was hanging out of him, and you can see going to a fence, Mark doesn't know whether to let him down and jump, or try and, get him to bend his back, and he's doing neither. He was good at the second last, and he was fine at the last. But people saying he should have went through the gap. So he was wobbling. He was wobbling up that straight. He was empty. So he's racing backwards at the minute. He's good and fresh there early, and then just halfway through the race, and when any bit of pressure comes on, I don't know. Yeah, he's not a chaser, I'd say, and that's it. He could win chases, but he's not going to be superstar.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll move on to Sunday. Loads more there. We'd Final Demand, foot perfect in that Faugheen novice chase down in Limerick with Cocktail Divan was impressive as well. T Hoopu, Bob Ollinger, and Ballybourne. That's one we can discuss. And we had Willie winning the bumper. Bent Raha Hill talks good stuff about that. So we'll see what to make of that as we go forward. What about Sunday, Emma? What did you make of it?
A Final Demand, I suppose. First, he's probably the complete opposite of Marlborough Paddy. He's like the jockey's dream. Like he was out in front, and I say he was lazy enough for Patrick, but he just never seems to meet a fence wrong. He's probably, as good a jumper as you see from a novice anyway. At least he's absolutely bulletproof. Look, the race maybe fell apart slightly with Jimmy Desai not performing, and whatever happened to him, I don't know. I think he was examined by the stewards afterwards and was post race no more, but he obviously didn't run his race. But like Ballyburn could only beat Ballyburn. He could only beat Final Demand could only beat what was put in front of him, and he beat a 150 rated chaser, on the bridle doing a canter. It was like a a round of schooling for Final Demand, and he shortened again, I think, for the Brown advisory after that, and you can see why. Like he looks like a fair old chaser, and yeah, I could say there'd be jockeys lining up at the door to get a ride on him. He looks just absolutely bulletproof. I'd say partially got a good thrill out of riding him yesterday, and Paddyburn was a funny one. I had a terrible day of punting yesterday. I backed the double, and I'm a back and back elephant off again after Ballyburn was beaten. But I took positives from galloping, but Ballyburn was interesting. I was standing on the steps there where you could see above the parade ring, let's say. So you could kind of see the horses in the parade ring and the horses in the pre-parade ring. And I was waiting for Ballyburn to come into the parade ring. And I was actually after backing him at this stage, unfortunately. I should have probably waited until I saw him in the parade ring, because as soon as I saw him, I wanted my money back. He wouldn't go into the parade ring. Look, I'd seen him a couple of times, and I never really took much notice. But as kind of Paddy said before the show, Leopardstown somewhere you can see a lot more, and you can see the pre-parade ring very well. But he was very reluctant to go into the parade ring. They had a job. I think he actually walked backwards around the pre-parade ring at one stage, and they had to get Mystical Power out of the parade ring to lead him in. So look, for me, maybe people are saying he didn't stay. I'm not sure. Look, he was a bit keen taking off. I know his head can be low normally, but it was particularly low in the opening stage. It looked as if he was only trying to buck Paul off in the first couple of furlongs to me, but he was beaten and probably too far out for me to say he didn't stay. I can't say it's his running, to be honest. Like, if you look at the form in the Hatton's Grace, look, he probably wouldn't have beaten Tiupo on the day. It was a brilliant performance by the winner, in fairness. Like, all of Gordon's horses are absolutely flying. The change attacked, sending Tiupo there, and it was brilliant because the crowd likes to see a horse like him, and there was a massive cheer from coming back in, and as he was crossing the line. A big one from Bob Ollinger in behind as well. and it'll prime him nicely now for spring targets as well. But Ballyburn for me just probably didn't run his race for whatever reason. The antics beforehand definitely wouldn't have filled you with confidence. It was kind of like, I remember a few years ago when Gaelic Warrior really disappointed in Leopardstown. It was kind of well publicised. You know, I didn't see the TV coverage yesterday, so I'm not sure what they're talking about it beforehand. But Gaelic Warrior was the same. He didn't want to walk around the parade ring, and disappointed then as well. So look, I think Ballyburn's capable of a lot better. Maybe I'm being a bit lenient on him, but I think he can do better than that in the 3 mile division.
Yeah, just T Hooper was seriously impressive. I think that's what he should have done in Cheltenham last year as well. He should have kicked on as he did, kicked on early, race put to bed within strides. I would have thought early in the stride it was all over. The other thing with T Hooper as well is Gordon has always been saying it's more about the trip than it is the ground, because we did think a couple of years ago he was definitely a soft ground horse. He had a preference for that and wouldn't perform on better ground, but that seems to be out the window now. It's just about the trip, and he's a very good horse, isn't he, Paddy?
Yeah, he's a dinger, isn't he? Wouldn't you love to own him? Like he turns up, doesn't he? He's a fighter, he's a warrior. Always runs his race, and again, he's probably a jockey's dream, man. To ride, he's very, very straightforward on the speed. There stays the 3 mile well, you know. And if there's a slow pace on, he can make a running. So he's versatile. I thought Bob Ullinger was brilliant. You know, the few quid I have on him in Cheltenham, I'm happy. You know, going there. Love to see him with the 4 legs and running to the line, and yeah, really good. But final demand now. I only thought that was an okay win. I give him a pass mark with that, to be honest with you.
Well,
He should be loosening in them races, but he jumped well without being amazingly good, like we know he can. And just for a little second there at the top of the hill, I thought, oh, Patrick had to shake him up a bit. But look, he won like a good horse. But I wouldn't be blown away by that. If Romeo Coolio decided to step up, you'd have a fair shout for him, that sort of way. Whereas I thought he done really well to win over two, but it's again, it's like Ballyburn there. Like, I remember having this Christmas for Desi Hughes. I can't remember, was it the big snow? Was it 2010 maybe, something like that? And we had a heap of runners, loads of runners, and I think about 70% of them pulled up. So it's the likes of Rare Bob, Schindler's Hunt, all them decent Grade 1 horses, and I can just remember riding them and everything would be fine, and you just give them a little squeeze and a slap in the shoulder and you get nothing. Nothing would happen. So you can nearly see Danny, Patrick, Paul, all Willie's jockeys, you can nearly see they're afraid to go for their horses now just in case nothing happens, so you can see them, they're holding on to them longer, and there's a bit of anxiety there about what's going to happen off the bridle. Whereas if you see Gordon and his riders, they can't wait to get them horses stretched, because they're flying. And in the back of Gordon's jockey's mind is there's no fear there whatsoever. But the other lads are I'd say they're just starting to think about things. When horses stop underneath you, you start scratching your head thinking, is it something I'm doing, or is it something they're doing, or other than just thinking about winning comes into your head. But yeah, look, Final Man was good. I'd like to see a little bit better before I back him at that short going forward. But I give Ballyburn another chance. I think he jumped well to a point, but like that, he was beaten with a mile out, really. And that's not good enough for him. And the antics before the race, maybe he's trying to tell you something that he's not 100%,
yeah, possibly so. But just with those Willie ones, like you look at Factifile, Ballyburn, Majbur, these are really, really good horses, top class horses, and yet we're kind of drawn lines through them at this stage in the season. I think they'll bounce back. I think Willie's will, but when it is the question, will it come in time? Is the whole thing. Will he be a case that we'll see in a couple of weeks? He shuts down for a week or two. I don't know. John O'Neill did that recently as well, and then bounced back, because if they're definitely underperforming overall. There's no question about that, even though he's having winners. But we'll see where it all pans out. We'll finish up with our horses to follow. I'll start off with one that I thought the world of it before it joined Gordon, and I still think the word of it even after what happened in Leopardstown, is El Keras. Can't wait to see the horse again. You'd just like to think that was it. It was a heavy enough fall, wasn't it? It did a somersault before falling over, so hopefully there's no long-term damage done there. But I'm excited to see El Keras come again, wherever that may be. Probably Dublin Racing Festival, I presume. What about you, Paddy? What was the one that really caught your eye?
Well, he definitely was one of them, Vin, but the horse I'll go for is the other one that fell at the last is Talk the Talk. I think a horse very much on the up, and probably he's going to be a really grade one contender wherever he goes, and jumps well now. And he was just novelty at the last. Then I'd forgive him that.
Yeah, Joseph, he's very few runners over jumps anymore, but my goodness, you have to really take note of them when they do run, don't you? He really does perform well with his jumping horses. It's a wonder he gave up that side of the game so much. Emma, what about you? What took your eye?
I was actually impressed by the winner of that race. Look, he might have been beaten when Joseph's horse came down, but I just thought the comments from Gordon afterwards were interesting as well. He was kind of saying that this horse didn't look great for one of his horses, that his coat wasn't particularly well, but I thought his performance, Skylight Hustle, was good in that race. Like they probably set it up nicely for him. They went a good gallop in front, and it allowed him to settle. And jumping's the name of the game. I thought this horse jumped brilliantly, and probably, I'm not sure, is he a real 2 miler? Like maybe the horse who fell probably looks like a pacey horse, but stepping up to maybe 2.5 miles, I'd say he could be a fairly decent one. And Gordon hasn't really hidden his admiration of him. He sounds like he thinks he's a fairly good one as well. And Gordon has won this race with some good horses in the past as well. So I'd say Skylight Hustle, maybe one to keep an eye, maybe setting up to 2.5 miles, but he looks like a good horse.
Yeah, I thought Jack Kennedy had some interesting thoughts on that afterwards as well. He said he wasn't sure if he'd win, but he didn't think he was beat, whatever that means. So there you go. So, on both fronts, hadn't said that I thought Talk the Talk would have won myself. There you go. I wasn't riding the other one, so I don't know. Just one thing to finish up on is Paul Kavanagh, the conditional jockey, 21 years of age, who was tragically killed on Christmas Eve. He was attached to Enda Bulger's yard. Deepest sympathies to his family, friends, and everyone. What a terrible thing to happen at this time of the year as well. Never mind any other time. And then we just have to tell you to gamble responsibly, and do subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And a happy new year to everyone. We'll be back, obviously, next Monday again for more of the same. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.